Hello everyone, myself Raj Bhagav, and I'm working as a cybersecurity analyst in Indian Cybersecurity Solutions. And today's topic is about Windows authentication and authorization. Let's get into the topic. Okay, so Windows authentication and authorization. In simple words, authentication is a process that whether you legitimate who are we, like authenticating it. So this authentication is done by obtaining a valid username and password on the password on the internet, password on the internet or intranet system. So once a user is gets authenticated, the system get confirmed that you match your identity or whoever it is. However, this authentication does not confirm whether you're authorized to access that particular resources or not, to that particular application or that particular service you're applicable or not. It is doesn't done by authentication. It is done by the authorization. Authorization also addresses like what we can do. Like according to the user, we have so many users in our admin user, like normal user or some other users. So this authorization will be happens after successful authentication. So authorization is a process of verifying that a user is allowed to access a requested resources or not. Where whether an authenticated user is permitted access to any part of an application or access to specific point of an application or access only the specified data sets that application provides after all. So let's go now into the Windows authentication. So authentication, if you are implementing your own authentication process using a backend database and a custom page of a web application for limited number of users who are like part of a network and domain, the Windows authentication is beneficial and the preferred choice for authentication. Windows based authentication is manipulated between the Windows server and the client machine. The ASP.NET, like where it comes the .NET framework and all, application resides in the internet IIS. We call it as Internet Information Server. Any user web request goes directly to the IIS server and it provides authentication process in a Windows-based authentication model. This type of authentication is a quite useful in the internet environment in which users are asked to log into a network. Uh, Credentials that are already in place for authentication and authorization process. And this authentication is done by ISS. What it does, it first accepts the user credentials from the domain login, or like you call say domain username and password. If this process is failed, then this IIS will be displaying an error, or it's asked for re-enter your credentials. The advantages of Windows authentication are it relies on and allows the user to use existing Windows account, establishes the foundation of uniform authentication model for multiple types of applications. For developers also, it is very implement. So the disadvantages of this Windows authentication are applicable to only Microsoft platforms, and it is no custom control over this platform provide an authentication process. If you want to set up your ASP.NET application, you need to work in the Windows-based authentication, and you need to create some users and groups within your operating system. Uh, and you can do that, like you can just give the water the things. So we have different types of Windows authentications. uh, Windows authentications, we have like certification authentication, uh, anonymous authentication, ASP.NET authentication, ASP.NET Framework authentication, basic authentication, basic authentication, and you what is it? Forms authentication, Windows authentication. Um, still, what we had? Digest authentication. So this certification authentication, it will be authenticating which client certification will be authenticated will be authenticated by the server. And if you come to the anonymous, then it is does not depend on the IAS. IAS doesn't perform this authentication, while ARP.NET framework will be authenticating this anonymous. And next, coming to ASP.NET, and it is this authentication will be completely handled by the .NET framework itself. And after that, we had basic authentication. So in basic authentication, the username and password sent across the network in a clear and text format. And this one is not used at all, because it is not secured, as well as because uh, it is not secured, because all the your credentials will be sent in a clear text format. So after that, we had digest. So it is also same as basic authentication, but whereas here user and password will be in the hashes and sent across a network. It will be hashed and it will be sent in the across the network. So next, coming to the form authentication, the authentication will be in a format which they would require entry a valid username and password. Then only the it will be allowed to use that application. So coming to Windows, either we use NTLM or Kerberos. It uses Kerberos protocol and all. So let's come to fundamentals of Windows security, like access control, encryption, and auditing. Look, in access control, will be managing the users and devices, like what are all there in the network, and who can access what are all the resources, and who are not able to, who should not be able to access that particular networks. Okay. Encryption, like say we should encrypt the data, so that whoever robust encryption protection, so that even if the data got breached, no one, it should not be able to read by them. Auditing, you we need to audit all the logs and monitor the system network, so that if any security is malicious activities going on, then you can be able to stop it from the getting of it. So coming to so Kerberos, coming to the Kerberos, and we have both Kerberos and NTLM, right? These two are prominent encryption methods, different fundamental in their approach to authentication and security. In Kerberos, it employs a robust third-party authentication system with ticket-based access, whereas NTLM relies on a challenge response mechanism and hashing techniques. Uh, there impacts their strengths, vulnerabilities, and suitability for various security scenarios. So, what is an encryption protocol? So, it is a set of rules and algorithm designed to secure digital communication and to protect secure sensitive information from unauthorized access. Uh, this encryption protocol uses cryptographic techniques to transfer data into secure and unreadable format, so that unauthorized parties intercept or manipulate the information. It will be hard to intercept manipulate the information. So these protocols play a very crucial role in ensuring the confidentiality and integrity of the data during transporting or storing the data for secure communication in various computing environments. These encryption protocol are essential components of cybersecurity, providing a framework for secure data exchange and helping safeguarding against potential cyber threats and data breaches. So now let's come into what is Kerberos and how does it work. So Kerberos is a network authentication protocol, and it is developed by Massachusetts, MIT. These facilities secure communication and authentication in a distributed computing environment, named after the three-headed dog that guards the entrance to the underworld in our Greek mythology. This Kerberos aims to guard against an unauthorized access to a network access. Kerberos it is mainly used in the enterprise environments and integrated with various operating systems, mm, including Windows and Unix-based systems, to establish secure authentication and communication within the networks. This Kerberos works as like manual authentication, ticket-based system, single sign-on, third-party authentication, encrypted communication. So coming to the mutual authentication, both the client and the server authenticate each other, ensuring a secure and trusted connection. So ticket-based system. In this one, like instead of transmitting sensitive credential, Kerberos uses this tickets. Upon successful authentication, a client receives a ticket from a KDC. KDC means like key distribution center. This is presented to access specific services without sending the password again. Next, coming to single sign-on, or you can call it is in short form SSO. Uh, Kerberos supports single sign-on, allowing the user to authenticate once and access multiple services without repeatedly entering the credentials. Third-party authentication. Next, Kerberos uses a third-party, the KDC, for authentication, enhancing security in distributed systems, and at last, encrypted communication. So Kerberos ensures that all the communication, including the tickets, exchange of tickets, is encrypted, preventing eavesdropping and unauthorized access. So now let's coming into the this is how Kerberos works. Next, coming to NTLM and how does it works. So NTLM stands for NT-LAN Manager. Okay, it is a security protocol developed by the Microsoft to provide authentication, integrity, and confidentiality. We in cybersecurity we call it as a CII triad also. So within the Windows network. So this NTLM is primarily used for user authentication on Windows-based systems and is accessed succeeded by more secure protocols like Kerberos in our latest environments. So NTLM is a operates on challenge response mechanism as we discussed, and involves several steps like negotiation, NTLM challenge, client response, NTLM V1, client response, NTLM V2, server verification, session key generation. So let's look into this, like what are all these, like what's the use of this. So negotiation. So negotiation means like when a client attempts to connect to a server, so that the two client and the server should negotiate the NTLM protocol version. So next, coming to the NTLM challenge. So the in this one, the server responds to the client with a random value known as a challenge. This challenge is a unique piece of data generated by the server for the specific authentication session to use. Client response NTLM V1. So in NTLM V1, what happens is like the client hashes the user passwords along with the challenge. to create a response. This response will be sending to the server. So NTLM v2. So this is a more secure version, and the client includes additional information such as the usernames and a timestamp along with the hash password and challenge. This enhances the security of the authentication process. Next, the server. The server verification. Server receives the client response and verifies it by hashing and the stored passwords and changing using the same method as the client. Session key generation. So if the verification is successful, a session key is generated. So the session key can be used to encrypt further communication between the client and server for the duration of the session until the session is ended. So NTLM served as a standard authentication protocol in Windows environment. It has some security vulnerabilities when compared to the more modern protocols like Kerberos. So this NTLM reliance on hashing passwords and the absence of mutual authentication are among the factors that make it less secure than the contemporary alternatives. Now, coming to Kerberos versus NTLM, these both differ significantly in their approaches, features, and security mechanism. Whereas Kerberos uses of mutual authentication, single sign-on ticket, and encryptions make it more secure than NTLM. With its robust security features, Kerberos is much better fit for large-scale enterprises environments. So NTLM being susceptible to password hashing and salting is generally only good for legacy systems or Windows-centric environment. Okay, so Kerberos is only a part of modern data storage solution, pure storage FlashBlade, which uses NFS version 4.1. Kerberos provides modern data storage that enables enterprises to easily share data across the work, workloads. So, as we discussed, like protocol, how the protocol versus service ticket, TGT instance, client request, Kerberos authentication, client request, TGT requires a later service ticket, Kerberos ticket system and validation, NTLM manager, NTLAN manager, authentication, legacy protocol, challenge response, compatibility. So, KDs, as I told you, key distribution center to issue tickets for authentication and authorization, provide storage security features. This Kerberos uses. So, NTLM uses challenge response. As I here mentioned in the key difference, Kerberos is recommended for authentication protocol for modern Windows environment, while NTLM is primarily used for legacy compatibility. Windows authentic authorization mechanism. First, it will be user account, groups, access control list, and security policies. So, this is about our today's session about Windows authentication and authorization. Hope it will be useful for you. So, meet you in the other session.